Hi, everybody. It is Wednesday night, and this is our Wednesday night edition of Region Weather Live. I'm Region Weather Meteorologist Matt Wintz. We've got a storm moving in tomorrow. I'll let you know what's changed in that forecast, which I'll be honest with you, not a whole lot. It's going to behave as expected, I think, at least as of right now. So we'll talk about that. And then I have some light at the end of the tunnel. If you've just been sick of this winter weather around here, I know it's still winter, but man, let's just get some spring-like warmth in here. I have some in the forecast, so we'll share that with you as well, all in this edition of Region Weather Live. And want to send a shout out to Jackie. She was first on board. She said, "Hi, Matt." Hi, Jackie. Nice to be with you this evening. Mark, I feel you. I'm sick of it as well. Brandy, hello. I hope you're doing well here on this Wednesday evening. Thanks for joining us, everybody. We're going to keep this kind of short and sweet because everything's pretty much as we've been forecasting over the last couple of days. It doesn't mean it'll pan out that way, but I really don't see a lot of changes with this forecast. So if you've been joining us over our last couple of Region Weather Lives, the information is pretty much going to be the same. What we'll talk about in this broadcast is we'll nail down the timing of this winter storm tomorrow. It is just nailing areas of the South. So Arkansas, areas of Texas, they have had freezing rain with this first line. And they've got another push, that second push that's going to come in here tomorrow that's going to put down more heavy freezing rain. They've got all sorts of icing issues down there. So when I say winter storm, I mean, this really is quite a storm. Impacts locally, yeah, we're going to feel them. But in terms of the stuff they're dealing with down south, boy, you don't mess with ice, and we're not going to have the ice around here other than the cold temperatures. All right, couple things before we get started. As always, I want to thank our wonderful sponsors. We've got two of this broadcast specifically, Grieger's, Chrysler, Dodge, Jeep, Ram, and Valpo. Please pay them a visit. They are just wonderful folks there. Both of our sponsors of this broadcast are family owned, and they've been in Northwest Indiana for a long time. So Grieger's, obviously, car dealership. Lots of Jeeps there. Jeeps are great this time of year. And I hate to push a Jeep on you, but boy, they're great 4x4s that are going to be really great tomorrow. And Grieger's is the place to go for that. Also, Tiger Plumbing. I've been working with Kimberly and Jeff, family-owned business for many, many years there. They're just, if you need a plumber, I'm telling you, they're hard to find. You go to Kelly's List or whatever that, Angie's List, you never know who you're going to get, and then you get spammed with ads in your email. Save yourself that trouble and just go to tigerplumbing.net. They don't charge trip fees. They come out, free estimates, just wonderful folks there. And obviously, we work well with them. They work well with us. We love them. So pay them a visit as well. All right, let's talk forecast, shall we? I'll get to the maps. I'm going to go to this map instead here. We'll talk timing of this winter storm tomorrow. So we've got that first wave. We've had the lake effect today, just very, very light little snowflakes falling. Those are starting to wind down as everything kind of shifts from east to west. Remember, we were talking about that yesterday, that shift of the lake effect. So the lake effect's going to wind down. Wasn't a whole lot to write home about. But here's that first wave tonight. This is the one that's been just plaguing Arkansas. It kind of heads up into drier air, so we're not going to see much with this tonight. But perhaps tomorrow morning we may have some snow showers around. Mainly Newton and Jasper County may see some snowflakes. Again, this isn't the storm. This is the first wave of it, which is weakening as it moves in. So we're not expecting a lot out of this. The lake effect will be over in Wisconsin with a northeast wind around here. This is the wave that we're watching. And again, this moves in. This is after lunchtime. So I think we're fair game 1, 2, 3 o'clock in the afternoon for this arrival of this storm system. We may even have some sun peaks in the morning through midday before this moves in. So you may be saying, where's the storm? We're not expecting a storm tomorrow morning. You're not going to wake up and have, snow on the ground or ice. Even midday is looking pretty light at this point. It's the afternoon that we get this real good push of moisture. And boy, the models have picked up on this really over the last 5 or 6 days. They've had this initial push of some heavier precip coming in. Remember earlier in the week, it looked like it could have been some icing in our southern counties. That still holds. I'll show you why here in a second. But what I expect to go down early afternoon tomorrow is this push of moisture. It'll likely be a push of snow for us. We may have a little freezing drizzle at the onset, but it really just looks like a good dose of snow that comes in hot and heavy. It doesn't look to last too long. Once that goes through, you can see that initial line pushing out towards eastern part of Indiana and Ohio. We turn over towards this just steady snow. It looks like just a light to moderate snow. And the longevity of it is what could cause some problems, especially after the sun goes down tomorrow. Just because the sun is behind the clouds and we have cloudy skies doesn't mean it's going to work. A lot of times we get solar radiation from that, and that helps to melt things and keep things kind of in check until the sun goes down. And then we'll start to see some of the accumulation on the roadways that are untreated. That's just kind of how I think it'll go. But you notice how the snow sticks with us. This is now tomorrow night. This is tomorrow evening. This is tomorrow night. And here's Friday morning right here where the snow's kind of heading outbound with the system and will likely have some lake effect behind it. And that could be pretty stout for a little while. It doesn't look to last too long. You can see how it shifts east pretty quickly with that. All right, so I like this model. And the reason why is it looks nice, right? This is the NAM Nest. It looks great. You've got your rain, you've got your ice, you've got your snow. It's all well and dandy, and there's no dry air in there. But if you remember yesterday, I was saying a lot of times these storm systems will have pockets of dry air. You'll have some mixing. And so that's why I really like tonight the HRRR, the H double or triple R. This is a high-res model that we can use up to 60 hours out. But I really like the way this evolves the storm system. So this is how I think this is going to go down. It's similar to the NAM Nest we just looked like. It's similar to our forecast. But you notice how there's dry air intrusions in it. It's kind of holy on the radar, right? There's not a whole lot of solid areas of precip, which usually storms don't look like that, right? So here's what the HRRR says. This brings in some freezing drizzle tomorrow afternoon. And the reason why is because, and I've seen this with storm systems before, there's not enough lift in the atmosphere initially. You don't get that initial push. So the moisture is just kind of trapped. It can't get up to where snowflakes grow. So it's just kind of trapped moisture, and the ground surface is below freezing. So we get these little droplets that are just trapped, and that would be your freezing drizzle. I could see that happening initially. So what we're going to go with, starting early afternoon, I think we could have a little freezing drizzle, but then once we get that lift in here with that push, that freezing drizzle would change over to all snow, and we'd have big snowflakes. And you can see the HRRR kind of agrees with that initial little wave of energy going through. This is now 4 or 5 o'clock hours, so we're impacting the evening rush hour. And again, I think this storm's going to come in pretty fast, and I think it's going to hit pretty quickly, and then it's going to kind of wind down or kind of taper off, but remain steady as we go throughout the evening. So there you go. There's your push of moisture, heads east. You notice how we're kind of lacking the lift. So the HRRR brings that icing a little bit further north. So that would be freezing drizzle, perhaps some sleet in there as well. I could see that because there's no real compact low creating all the energy. So we'd have likely a mix of some snowflakes and some wintry mix in there. And then as colder air wraps back in early Friday morning into the morning hours, we deal with snow on the backside with some lake effect thereafter. Does it matter in terms of snowfall totals? I don't think so. Does it matter in terms of impacts? I don't think so either. I think either way, we're still dealing with more of a nuisance storm. It's not going to be a blockbuster storm. We hinted on that, or we talked a lot about that yesterday, how this is not a blockbuster snowstorm or anything like that. It's going to be more of an inconvenience for everybody because we are likely going to have roads that are snow covered. We might have some ice in spots, especially untreated surfaces. And again, this all goes down tomorrow afternoon. So anytime after lunchtime, by tomorrow evening, that's when things will start to get tricky after the sun goes down, I think. And then Friday morning, we'll be kind of clearing things up. So how much snow are we talking about? Well, the HRRR, I agree with it. I think it looks good. You can see a little bit with that initial push, maybe some flurries tomorrow morning. And then you could see some of the totals there. I think you could see them. Let me go full screen for you so you can see it a little bit better. But we're talking a general 2 to 4 inches, and that's been our forecast all along. The Weather Service in Chicago is going 2 to 5 with this. So they're hitting on some of the stuff near the lake. And I could see that happening, but I really don't see outside of that initial push a real heavy snow. I think it'll just be steady beyond that. So we'll have a steady snow late through the day on Thursday and a steady snow into Friday morning, which could add up, but it doesn't look to be that a real efficient snowfall that we tend to get with some of these winter storms. I just don't see that happening. I never have, and I still don't. I don't think it's going to be a real efficient snowfall maker. I think it's going to be steady. We're going to have some problems, but overall, not too terrible, right? Very manageable storm system, okay? In terms of the icing, I don't see a ton of that. I will show you the freezing rain accumulation. You notice how some of the light icing's getting up in here. that's all the icing would be just a little coating on things. I don't anticipate, power lines or trees having all the ice around them. And in terms of sleet, not expecting a lot of sleet either. We may have some sleet mixing in with the snow at times. But again, I think this is mainly snow for Northwest Indiana, again, with a little bit of icing in there as well. Okay, so that's what we're dealing with. Last thing I want to leave you with before we open it up to questions here this evening is a little bit of a warm up. I think you guys are going to like to see this. The models next week are hinting towards, and they still don't have a good solution on it yet. So don't take these numbers and write them in your diary and say, dear diary, Matt from Region Weather told me it was going to be 50 next week. Not the case, but I want to show you the potential that exists with the nice little ridge that may develop. And it's not even a ridge. It's basically just a zonal flow. So a west to east flow. We haven't had that in weeks around here. The flow has been constantly out of Canada with this Arctic air, but things go zonal next week. And so that may allow us to be a little bit more seasonal and maybe on the warmer side of seasonal. So we'll see. But these are some of the highs being spit out by the Euro. The Euro is the warmest model in terms of this. This is Tuesday. How's 46 sound? Pretty good? Don't worry about that. We can do better. Look at this. This is Wednesday now. Problem this time of year, you notice we're 50s in our southern county, 60s not far off. The problem is the Euro is bringing a wind off the lake, and we know what that does this time of year. So I'm sorry, Gary and Chesterton and Michigan City. It does look like you would drop into the 30s and 40s. Everyone else would be 50s. You know the drill with that in spring. And then we get a nice push out ahead of potentially a weather system later next week, and that would bring us all into the 50s and 60s, says the Euro. Next Thursday, it doesn't mean it's true. The other models have us in the 40s. So I just wanted to show you some positivity here. Then the last day I want to show you is next Friday. Those are some nice looking numbers. Euro saying maybe mid 60s around here, a clear frontal boundary off towards the west. But it doesn't look like any major snowstorms next week, or storm systems for that matter. A couple of little weak systems kind of gliding through the flow, but overall, hey, we're not looking too bad next week. A quiet week, and I think we could all use that, right? So we'll be doing a temperature story from here. All right, so that's it. So I'll open it up to any questions you guys have. I hope that certainly covers everything. I mean, I hope that helps in terms of your morning travel. If you do have travel plans tomorrow, go ahead and make them. But just keep in mind, we're going to have winter weather conditions for that evening rush hour will likely be impacted. It is going to be tricky, right? It's going to be a nuisance and inconvenience to you. You're going to have to take it slow. We'll likely have snow-covered roads and a little bit of light icing around. That Friday morning is kind of questionable because the storm system will be pushing on out. So it'll be a matter of how quick do we clean up. Our saving grace, if you're hoping for a school cancellation or closure on Friday, would be the fact that we're going to have some lingering lake effect snow that may keep that snow coming through the superintendent's decisions on Friday morning. So that's kind of what we're dealing with. Okay. All right. So we'll get to your questions here. Ruth says, what does February have against Thursdays? I know, Ruth, Thursday, Friday storms. We've had them over the last 3 weeks now, something like that. I remember, gosh, maybe it was last winter I'm thinking back to. We had a lot of Saturday storms. We had a lot of weekend ones where we'd get a lot of snow on the weekend, but it didn't cancel school or anything like that. So for sure. Joshua asked a good question. When do you think we'll have the first 2 inches on the ground in the Chicagoland area? Joshua, that's a great question, and a question I'm sure a lot of area plow drivers are worried about. My best guess, I don't think we'll get 2 from that initial band. Gosh, my best guess with the 2-inch total would probably be, I think we'd probably hit that like maybe 6 or 7 p.m. right after rush hour. I think we may have around 2. Let's see what the model's saying here. So this is saying, you can see we go to 2 in Chicago there, 2 in the region too. This would apply to us locally. And that is, let's see, -5 hours. So that's, like 8 o'clock, 8 or 9. So I would say anywhere between 6 and 8 o'clock, we should have about 2 inches on the ground as it looks right now. If that first push of moisture, remember that first hit from the storm system is going to be like, whoa, that's a chunk of precip coming down, right? Should be decent snowflakes. Once that hits, everything should kind of back off throughout the event. So I hope that helps. Brandy is dealing with son's first birthday. Oh, Brandy, you're in it. We have a 1-year-old as well. Well, you don't yet, but yeah, everything looks okay next weekend for sure. I think we'll be sitting a lot better than we have been the last couple of weeks. Daniel, thank you, buddy. Thanks for always being here for Munster. Should I plan on driving my wife to work tomorrow? Would there be ice on her car late at night? So this is let's see tomorrow. So tomorrow morning is fine. Obviously, tomorrow evening, there may be a little layer of ice. I think it's mainly going to be snow. Again, the ice would be a glaze. So man, Daniel, it just depends on how good of a winter weather driver she is. I don't anticipate this being a huge, like everything shut down kind of thing. I think we'll be able to manage and drive around. It'll just be a little tricky. So I don't see a lot of ice with this. Again, it would be a glaze, if anything, and then we'd throw the snow on top of that. So I hope that helps. There's just so many different kinds of drivers, and I'll leave that guy up to you guys for sure. Maxwell's ready for vitamin D. Yes, we all are. I don't think I've been this pale in a couple winters now, so that's fun. But they say it's healthy. David asked a good question. Hey, Matt, what is your confidence in having school on Friday? David, appreciate the question, first of all. Gosh, how many snow days are we at now, depending on, I guess, schools? Because a lot of times, when we get towards the end of our snow days, which I don't think we've used them all up yet, a lot of schools have 5. They just do virtual learning now anyway. That kind of weighs the decisions. Do I think we would be able to have school Friday morning? For most of us, probably. There's still going to be some tricky side roads, though, and that's the problem. You get some of these more rural areas, and those roads don't get cleaned real quickly. The other thing is we're going to have wind on top of this. Not a lot of wind, but it's going to be gusty at times. And you can see this is the wind map. You can see as we go through time, we've got 15 to 20 mile per hour winds during the event. And then as this thing's heading out of here on Friday, we'll kind of maintain that. The winds have never been too much of an issue. There's some gusts over 20 at times. So not quite as windy as the last storm system. Blowing and drifting is going to be a little factor, especially some of the outlying locations. So in terms of confidence, David, here at our TV station, we do percentages and we code it by area. So I would say, I would say there's a 60, I would probably go 65% chance of a school closure. Maybe I would go up to 70 closer to the lake shore where we may have a little lake enhanced snow. So I hope that helps. Carolyn, man, I don't think so. I don't think this is a Friday. It depends on how early it is. If it's like 6 or 7 a.m., maybe. But I think as we get towards the latter half of the morning, flights should be okay. I really don't think this is a big shutdown kind of event. I think it'll be a nuisance more so than anything. Faith, temps approach freezing down into the south. The rest of us are going to stay in the 20s. So here's your temps as we go throughout the event. You notice the warm air that comes in from the south or tries to. In this model, actually saying we don't even get towards 30 tomorrow. But again, I think we'll make a run probably mid and upper 20s in Newton and Jasper County. And I think we'll stay low 20s to the north. A lot of people ask, and this has been a common question, how can we have freezing rain and freezing drizzle if it's 22 degrees out, right? It all depends. Remember, the atmosphere is layered. Okay, you've got layers of temperatures at different levels, and you've got wind at different levels too, right? So we've got cold air here at the surface. It's already cold, right? We're already in the teens and 20s. So right where we are, it's cold. It's cold all the way up right now. But what happens with the storm system, you get wind at the mid levels. So up above us, just below the clouds, you get wind that is a warmer wind. And the temperature is actually warmer up above you, whereas you're cold here at the surface still. So our surface temperature is 21, 22. You get warmer air up here. So everything starts as a snowflake up in the cloud. It hits that warmer air, melts into a raindrop, and then it hits the shallow layer of cold air that we have. So that raindrop doesn't have time to become a sleet pellet. It doesn't refreeze. So it stays rain, and that hits the ground. So that can happen. The other thing that's going to happen probably tomorrow at times, I don't think this is widespread, is that freezing drizzle where you don't have enough lift in the atmosphere to produce the precip where the snow growth zone or the snow growth zone is, where the snow actually develops. And so you have this moisture, little tiny moisture droplets, kind of like if you take a hot shower and it's steamy, you have these moisture droplets that are trapped in that cold air here at the surface, and they can't form snow. They're like, I want to be a snowflake, but they can't be. And so they just kind of dance around and you get freezing drizzle, so that's that too. And another thing to get into, I don't want to get too crazy, but they're super cooled water droplets, which is fascinating as well. They can be below freezing, but still water. So there's your temperatures. That's all you asked for. I gave you a lot more than you asked for. I'm sorry, I'm nerding out. Okay, let's go back to this here. And again, I think a general 2 to 4 inches ought to do it for Northwest Indiana. Could we see a 5? Maybe, but I'd rather have us hit a 5, and I don't call for it. I really think we're going to fall in the 2 to 4 line. Let's see. Sean, you're welcome, buddy. Good to hear from you too. Josh asked a good question. Is there sunshine on Friday that would help the salt work? Yeah, Josh, I think we will break out into sunshine on Friday. I can show you that product as well. But just from looking at maps all day at work too, I can't tell you how many maps I've looked at all day and how many model runs we've looked at as well. I am really sick of the storm system. It hasn't even arrived yet. But in terms of cloud cover, yeah, I think we get some drier air in here. We'll likely see sunshine. Keep in mind, we'll still have lake effect clouds on Friday, though. So if you're in the snow belt, we'll likely have those clouds linger a little bit longer. So here's your cloud product. Here's our storm system right here. Lots of clouds. The white are the clouds on there. And then as we go through time, if my internet will work here, apparently we're shutting things down. That'll update eventually. There we go. So here's Friday morning. System's moving out. And you can see the lake clouds are kind of hanging in. This Euro model keeps cloud cover in here. I would not be surprised if we had sun peaks later in the day, though. We really clear out. This is evening where we start to clear out, but that would be after sunset. But I really think we'll have some sun peaks in the afternoon before all that goes away. Okay. April just joining. No problem, April. So in Lowell, this is going to be the same for all of Northwest Indiana. I'll go back to our snowfall model that I totally agree with. I think a general 2 to 4 inches, and that would be area wide. The only thing that would bring us down to the 2-inch total would be if we have some sleet or freezing rain mixing in. What would bump us up to 4, maybe 5, says the Weather Service, which I agree with, would be more efficient snowfall producing. So a good hit of initial snow and then the steady snow that just stays the whole event. But this is, again, a very manageable storm system. It's not going to be something that is going to shut us down for sure. John, that's a great question. Would I say it's going to be the accumulating snow for the winter? No, I don't think so. Unfortunately, John, May or March tends to provide some decent snow around here. We have the same setup in March. We tend to get heavy wet snow in March because there's more moisture. We get Gulf of Mexico. We can go from 60 to snow in March. Until March is over with, we can start to toy with the idea of we're done with the snow. We are almost, I think we're almost like 70% done with snow. So after this system will probably be 72, 73%, somewhere around there. So we'll see. All right, Ruth, Matt, is there a difference in the structure of the snowstorm snow and lake effect snow? One of my family members always says lake effect snow isn't real snow. That's interesting, Ruth. That's interesting that your family says that. I could see why they're saying that. It's all real snow. So the same way lake effect snow is made is the same way system snow is made. Like, so this storm and any other snowstorm, they have to get their moisture from somewhere. It's typically out of the Gulf of Mexico. So you'll have deep feed of Gulf of Mexico moisture. Lake effect is very specific in that, yeah, it just comes off the lake and it's based on the wind. It's very different, but it all forms the same in terms of you have a moisture source that has evaporation and that gets pushed into the storm system. The lake's the same way. The lake, when it's warmer than the air temperature, you have evaporation. If you have wind and enough lift, that forms into clouds. And if the cloud's heavy enough, you get enough moisture and that forms snow, and then it's blown based on the wind. So to answer your question, it is all the same, but they're from different sources, if that makes sense. One impacts a large geographical area. The other one impacts a little area because you have a little lake, right? Little cute little lake. So that's interesting, though. I can see why they would say that, but I hope that helps. I hope that explains it. Jose, I feel you, buddy. I hope this is the last one for sure. D, you're welcome. Mike, you're welcome as well. Thank you. Tanya, how bad is the drive to Chicago on Friday morning? I think it's going to be tricky, Tanya. It will have been snowing all night, and we're going to have some fluffy lake effect at the end of this. So I do think we're going to have some snow cover on area roadways. It just depends on how well they do in terms of cleaning. The problem with our temperatures is that, yeah, we're low 20s. We'll be in the teens probably by Friday morning. And salt works on that, but it doesn't work as well as it does at like 30 degrees. So it becomes a little bit trickier. The snow's blowing around a little bit more. So again, I think we'll have some snow cover on roadways. I think it'll be tricky, but I don't think it'll be impossible. I don't feel like Friday morning something that we should avoid, and shut stuff down for sure. Chris says, I'd be more cautious about catching lake effect snowflakes on your tongue than regular snow. Yeah, that's a good call, Chris. That is a really good call. And here's just an interesting little tidbit. Um, Sometimes the factories in Gary will produce their own snow. And this has happened down, there was a study done down in Kansas of some factories that produced factory effect snow. Like, does that not sound nasty? It's not green or anything, but they had, a little factory and it's sunny all around, but you had enough cold air and you have enough moisture coming out of the smokestack and just the right atmospheric profile that it produced snow. And there was like a strip of snow 2 to 4 inches just east of this factory randomly, right? And sometimes we'll see that on the radar. You'll see usually when there's a northwest or a westerly wind, and we already have some ongoing lake effect, you'll tend to see a snow plume that develops in Gary, and sometimes it'll just dump right along the lake shore. And if you don't look at the nuances of the radar, you'll think it's just lake effect snow, but a lot of times that's from the smoke and the water droplets in that whatever's coming out of the towers. Isn't that interesting? So don't eat the snow. That's bottom line. And Chris brings up a really good point with that. Maxwell says, I've noticed lake snow tastes fishy. Don't eat the snow, buddy, for sure. Yeah, kind of crazy. Tanya, are you concerned about ice on the roads in Chicago? I'm not very concerned about that. No, Chicago's not going to. If there's going to be any icing problems, they're going to be south of here, down towards Newton, Jasper County, southern area of the county, Lafayette, down towards Indianapolis may have some icing with this. But yeah, I'm not too worried about the icing with this. I'm just worried about a consistent snow that falls all night, and 2 to 4 inches. That's enough to cause slick travel, and that's going to be the problem for sure. Shayna, that's okay. 2 to 4 inches. Can you repeat it? That's okay. Husband plows 2 inches or more. It's right on the line. So we're talking. I have a feeling we're gonna have over 2 inches. So again, 2 to 4 is my range. Weather Service is going 2 to 5 for us. So could we pop a 5-inch total? Sure, but I do think your husband will have to plow probably Thursday night at some point into Friday morning for sure. Okay. Yeah, Sherry, I don't think it's going to get too bad. I mean, again, this is a persistent snow. It's going to hit hard tomorrow afternoon. Once it comes in, we'll get a good push of moisture. So there's going to be heavy snow briefly, I think, when this moves in, and then it should back off. And we may have, again, some freezing drizzle mixed in at times when there's not enough lift going on in the atmosphere. But overall, this is a very manageable storm system. Okay. All right. I think that's it. You're absolutely welcome, Shayna. Okay, well, I appreciate you guys joining us here tonight. I hope that helps. Again, I love you guys like family, so I appreciate your questions. You guys always ask great questions. And I think what we're going to do from here is we'll have an update tomorrow morning just on kind of how it looks like it's going to evolve tomorrow morning. We'll do some kind of graphical update, and then we'll keep you updated throughout the event. I'll be pushing some radar images out, not just to our Facebook page, but regionweather.com. So you can stay tuned on there. And as always, if you guys have reports, I love your reports. You are the ground truth. So as we go throughout the event, don't feel bad about posting pictures or reports on our page, because that certainly helps. And I'll pass those on to the Weather Service as well. Okay. All right. Get some sleep, everybody. I appreciate you joining us tonight here on Region Weather Live, and we'll talk to you next time.